Hello and welcome back. My name is Jackson Kent, and today I'm happy to be bringing you all another episode of the UP Economics Club web series, where we invite UP alumni to have a discussion with us about their education at UP, their experiences afterwards, and any insights in between. Today, we will be joined by special guest Jessica Fritts. Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning. Thank you, Jackson. Yes, my name is Jessica Fritts. I graduated in 2004 from the business school, and I majored in finance, had a small focus in accounting, and minor in sociology.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So I'm going to start off with some questions for you. What did you see yourself doing after graduation from UP, and how far has that vision shifted from the reality of what's actually happened?
It's a great question. I really thought I was going to be a stockbroker or a money manager of some kind. However, when I was 20, I got a job in the mortgage industry. And so I've shifted from thinking I was going to be working in equity to working in debt. And I love it. I've been doing it 18 years. And I would never have guessed this is where I would be when I first started at UP.
Definitely. So when you were majoring in finance and taking your finance classes, you were kind of heading towards stock brokerage, and that shifted for you towards managing debt and mortgages. So is there any shift in how you perceived your studies of finances in between those two fields, would you say?
Gosh, I don't think so. I think, I was very drawn to economics. At the time, we didn't have an econ major, so I just really submerged myself in those lessons and kind of took on economics as my favorite subject to study. And everything's balanced in economics with debt and equity. So I feel like it brings my clients and the community a little bit more well-rounded education of financial markets, because most everybody talks about stocks and then interest rates, but they don't necessarily talk about how you can use your debt to create wealth. And so that's where I use my education and experience to help people, use their one asset sometimes and really leverage it appropriately and not put themselves in a position where it's hurting them, but putting them in a position to build equity and wealth here in Portland. Mostly I'm in the Portland market.
Definitely. That's awesome to hear. Next question for you. What's the biggest difference between the professional that you are today and the professional you thought you would be as an undergrad?
Yeah, I think early in my career, I had a lot of great mentors. And even at UP, transitioning into working full time after graduation. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed, well, I'm getting older, so maybe now I would be more of a mentor, but the mentee pool is kind of shrinking. And I would never have imagined that. I think I've always really looked up to leaders in the industry. So really appreciate what you're doing. I think that we need more leaders of all ages and and then really come together as a people, and whether it be through the alumni clubs or what, but just network and connect and kind of have that. I miss that community feeling of being at University of Portland. I think, especially right now, we're all working from home. It's hard to feel connected.
Most definitely. That's a great answer. That's what we try to do here at the UP Economics Club, is bring together a platform for humble discussion about how we can make changes for the better, essentially. Third question, how has your industry been affected by the pandemic we're going through, and what kind of changes can we expect to see coming out of it?
Ooh, that's a really great question. Well, first of all, I've been set up from home for years. I prefer to work from home, so the majority of my time is spent in my home office. But I do have a regular office, and we were, meeting with clients and everything downtown. But since we had to work from home, our IT department actually worked really, really quickly and got all of our support staff from, reception to, part-time people, all working from home. We did that with recycled technologies and computers so that everyone would have a station to work from home. And so that happened really, really quickly. At the same time, mortgage interest rates have come down. So I'm incredibly busy, incredibly busy. And going into the summer months is when a lot of people decide to move. I work with a lot of people relocating to the Portland area. So the busyness is full throttle right now. So it was really nice that back in March, my company got everybody up and running. So you have this kind of inequality right now where rates are really, really low and qualifying has become harder.
Right.
So if you qualify, then it's wonderful. You could lower your interest rate or get a great interest rate on a mortgage, but you better have stable income, not be furloughed, anything like that. And so it's kind of an interesting time where privileged people are going to benefit. The other big change in our industry is the ability to do everything remote. And real estate agents have been able to do remote signings for years, particularly cash transactions. But with loan documents, there's a lot more regulation and restrictions on top of that. So we've never been able to close a mortgage exclusively through DocuSign. And that's something that we accelerated the rollout date on and came out with during the epidemic. There are a couple of documents that still need to be signed with a licensed notary, but we've essentially taken the in-person time down from an hour to about 15 minutes. And I only see that, being even more streamlined as we use technology and go into the future, being able to identify people, their identity and that kind of thing through technology, and then being able to close remotely. I think it's going to open up my business even more because I do work with so many people out of state and sometimes out of the country relocating here. So they can actually get things going in a remote setting, and execute real estate transactions that way, which is really exciting. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of vetting and a lot of fraud prevention that we are planning on.
Definitely. So the first thing I heard from you, I think, was the approval from the banks is becoming more strict. So is that a direct result of COVID particularly, or is it just the times?
That's a great question. It is specifically due to COVID. So above the banks, we have Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are pseudo government agencies that help regulate the mortgage industry. They're the ones that came out with the direction on folks that are being furloughed. So a lot of people being furloughed, and a lot of people also being able to take advantage of like mortgage relief acts. Those people are almost automatically disqualified. They came out with guidance that said you must get something from the employer stating that this employee isn't furloughed, and that they're making their current wage that they've historically made, guaranteed hours, these types of things. And so it has taken people that probably are first-time home buyers, maybe barely qualifying, to a whole different platform. So it's been an interesting time. I will say that it is different from two major markets that happened in the mortgage industry: 2001, September 11th, and then 2008. And what's happened with this COVID is that we've learned from those markets and we're recovering much quicker. So after 2008, it was really, really challenging for somebody, say, self-employed, to get a loan. And then after that, it's gotten better slowly. This time around, in March, a lot of jumbo investors pulled out of the market. A lot of specialty program investors pulled out of the market. Anything unique, anything like 0% down, or like I say, jumbo, which is more $1 million price ranges. In the Portland market, that's a loan amount over about $500,000. So they pulled out immediately, and they're already coming back 4 months later. And back in 2008, it took years. So I think we see a lot of investors making conservative initial changes, and now they're going to slowly start reintroducing some of these loan products that were considered higher risk.
Most definitely. Totally understandable, I guess. So then I guess the second part of what you were talking about was a streamlining of mortgage acceptances on the digital platform. So a question I have about that is, does that shift any sort of uh, like people values anywhere here and there? Like, is it, since it's less in person, is it a different experience for the lender and the buyer and you?
Yeah, it really has been. I do most of my business face to face, and so um, and yes, over the years, there's been clients I've not met in person because of some of this like relocation and travel. But I really try to meet my clients at least once face to face, and the rapport is so much different.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to get comfortable with video meetings. A lot of my colleagues are already there doing it pretty regularly, but technology is advancing very quickly. And so I'm kind of having a hard time even just keeping up with it. Like I say, the DocuSign is starting to come out for some of our loan documents that, a few years ago, we couldn't even take fax copies. So, or email copies. So, we had to have wet signatures. So things are just changing very quickly. And I think being knowledgeable and staying up on those changes is what my clients appreciate.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, it's been hard, but the relationships that I already have, I don't think have suffered.
Definitely.
It's creating new relationships that's a little bit of a challenge.
Okay. Well, there you have it all. That's the mortgage industry in 2020. Jessica, I think that's all of the time we have today. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jackson. I appreciate what you're doing, and it's always wonderful to stay connected to the University of Portland. So happy there's an econ major now, and I know that goes really hand in hand with the e-scholars and everything else that the business school is doing. So thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to hearing more from this series.
Yes, of course, Jessica. There will be more. Thank you all for joining today. This is Jackson Kent with the UP Economics Club, and I'll see you guys next week.